Okay, the imperfect versus the preterite. You can use, or learn, I should say, P.H.D. in S.T.A.R.S, which are uses that describe the imperfect and the preterite. You can use the imperfect and the preterite to talk about the past. Let's look at P.H.D. So what does in progress mean? Progress is something that was happening in the past. So let's just draw some water. And then we're going to draw a person. That's someone swimming. So let's say I'm at home and we're going to call this person over here Jose. Obviously I can't call him because he's swimming. But let's just say later on in that day I called Jose and I said, Jose, what were you doing yesterday at about 3 o'clock? He's going to say, I was swimming. So this event was taking place or was happening yesterday. That means in progress. Habitual action. What does habitual action mean? Let's use some more green just because green is a cool looking color. So let's pretend we have some grandparents. I'll draw my grandparents for a second. It's my abuelita. And here's my abuelito. Now when I was younger, I used to go to my abuelita's house all the time. Okay? This is yo. And I used to do one thing at her house in particular, and that was I used to eat tacos. I used to eat a lot of tacos. Why? Because my abuelita loved me, and I loved my abuelita. My grandpa was always pretty sad, so we're just going to do it like that. Okay? And so what did I used to do? Well, my habitual action was I used to eat tacos. Let's look at D. Let's use some white ink on this slide. And we're going to talk about description. So description means physical description. So let's just say we have two people. And this first person here is, we're going to call him bajo. Actually, that's the adjective we're going to use to describe him. And this person is alto. So bajo and alto are descriptions. So if you're going to describe someone in the past, you have to use the imperfect. Let's look at age. Let's go back to green. I just like green for some reason. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because I like looking at grass. But let's say we're going to talk about someone's age, and we're going to pretend everybody is 18 años, because that's the perfect age. Why? Because it just is. Okay, so if you're going to describe someone's age in the past, you have to use the imperfect tense. Time. Well, time is important, obviously, because we all have a limited amount of time. But we're going to draw a digital clock over here. And we're going to call this, let's see, 3 o'clock. Okay? Why 3 o'clock? Because I like the number 3. So if you're going to describe time in the past, you have to use the imperfect tense. Let's go back to green. Remember, I like the color green. Maybe it's just because I like money. And we're going to describe the weather. And we're going to pretend that the weather is, let's see, let me ask you a question. What makes you happy? I don't know about you, but the sun makes me very happy. So if we're describing the weather in the past, it's supposed to be sunglasses. Those are cool shades. If we're describing weather in the past, we have to use the imperfect tense. Okay? So we have P, we have H, and we have D. Hopefully you have a doctorate in the imperfect tense at the end of this grammar tutorial. Now let's continue on, and we're going to discuss the preterite tense. And to use the preterite tense, we have to use this acronym over here, S.T.A.R.S. Okay? Maybe you like some stars over here, but like I don't know if I told you this, but I like circles because there isn't a beginning and there is not an end. Okay, so let's talk about succession. What does succession mean? Succession means several activities. Let's just say more than one activity that was completed in the past. So there's activity 1, there's activity 2, there's activity 3, and let's just do one more for fun, activity 4. Let's use green again because I like the color better there. Okay, so we're going to pretend that yesterday the first thing that you did was you woke up and you had cereal. And then after you had cereal, you watched TV. That's an old school TV. Should I draw a digital one? Nah, because that one's much cooler. Then you, let's see, I don't know, you checked your laptop. That looks like a laptop from the side. Okay, so you checked that, you opened your laptop and you checked your email. And then you, what did you do? I don't know, you got in your car and you drove off somewhere, okay? So the first thing you did was you ate cereal, you watched TV, you used your laptop, and then you drove somewhere. So more than one activity yesterday that was completed represents succession. Okay? So time means something that you did for a duration of time. So let's just use, let's say you checked your laptop yesterday for, I don't know, we're all addicted to the internet. So let's just say you used it for 10 hours. I hope you didn't use it for 10 hours because that would make me very sad. There are other things to do in life, like, I don't know, go swimming, walk. Let's see. So this person is walking. Okay, there are other things to do, but let's just say you did that. You used your laptop. Let's use a different color because I'm getting pretty excited with this green. Let's just say you used your laptop for 10 horas. Okay? That described how long you did something in the past. Let's look at completed action. What is completed action? Well, if we look at the letter S, which represents succession, and we eliminated the last one, we eliminated the third one, and we eliminated the second activity. If we only have one activity, that represents a completed action. So if I asked you, or somebody else asked you, what did you do yesterday? And the only thing you did yesterday was eat breakfast. That is one completed action. Notice this word says action. Doesn't have an S, which would make it plural. It just says action. So one completed activity, like eating cereal. I don't know, what is your favorite cereal? Mine is probably Applejack. So let's just draw a green box. Remember, I like the color green, and that's probably why I like Applejacks. Reaction or summary. So let's just pretend that yesterday, we have to pretend a lot in this class. Why? Because imagination is more important than knowledge. Remember, that's what Einstein said. Let's just draw a picture of Einstein real quick. Right, kind of a big nose. Right, let's just pretend that he was, well, we can't pretend because this guy really was intelligent. Remember this? I'm not even a math teacher, but I remember that E equals MC squared. So let's go back to our little drawing over here, and let's say you watched a movie, and we're going to pretend that movie was La Casa de Mi Padre with Will Ferrell. Okay, so you watch the whole movie and then you leave, and then someone says, what color do we want? Let's go back to green. Remember, I like the color green. So someone says, so how was the movie? And you say the movie was terrible. So you're really crying over here. Why? Because Will Ferrell's Spanish is terrible. Okay, so what was your reaction? Well, it was a terrible film. Or what was the summary of the whole film? It was terrible. So if I were you, I would not go watch the movie La Casa de Mi Padre. To speak in the past, get your Ph.D., and then you will become a star in Spanish. As cheesy as that sounds, but remember, that makes me and other Spanish speakers happy.